This is our joint meeting of the City Council, successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency, Public Finance Authority, Public Utility Authority, Housing Authority, the Paris Joint Powers Authority, and the Paris Community Economic Development Corporation of the City of Paris. This Tuesday, November 9th, 2021, at 6:32 p.m. Madam Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Sure. Councilmember Nava?
Present.
Councilmember Corona?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Rabb?
Present.
Councilmember Rogers?
Here.
Mayor Vargas?
Here, thank you. And for those in the audience at home or zooming in, Councilwoman Rogers and Councilwoman Nava will both be zooming in as well. On the dais tonight, we'll have Mayor Pro Tem Rabb, Councilman Corona, and myself. So if you are on Zoom, if you'd like to make a public comment on the Zoom screen, please click on the participants button at the bottom of your screen. A list of participants will appear on the right side of the screen at the bottom of the list. Please click on the gray raise hand button. This will signal to the host that you would like to provide public comment, and you will be added to the list. If you are using Zoom on your smartphone, tap your screen. A new screen will pop up with the list of participants. Look for the raise hand button on the screen. And for those of you who are using a traditional phone line, all you need to do is hit *9 on your keypad to signal that you would like to make comment. *9 would remove your request to speak as well. We're going to move on to item 3, which is our invocation, which will be led by Pastor Chris Thompson from the Paris Valley Community Church. If you'd all join us and stand and remain standing for item number 4, our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilwoman Nava. Is the pastor with us?
Here, yes.
Oh, I'm looking for you on Zoom.
Oh,
Very good. Thank you for showing up, Pastor.
came in person. Let's pray. Lord, we want to thank you this evening for the ability to be here, and we thank you for the health that you have provided, and we ask for your continued hand of blessing over our city and your continued hand of healing over those who still suffer the damages of our pandemic. Lord, I thank you for the wisdom of our council that has worked us through to get to this point, and I ask for continued wisdom as they maneuver our future for us. Lord, be with them as they lead us, be with us, keep us healthy. Lord, we pray all this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Item 5 is our report on closed session. Mr. Dunn?
Thank you, Mayor. The council met in closed session to discuss the one item noted on the agenda, and no reportable action was taken.
Thank you. Item 6 is presentation announcements. We have none this evening. Item 7 is our Youth Advisory Committee communications. This report will be given by Jasmine O'Malley, the Vice President.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, and City staff, good evening. I will be providing an update on YAC's latest and upcoming activities. YAC will be hosting a park cleanup Saturday, November 20th at Skydive Park. We invite the City Council and the community to come out and help our park stay clean. Bring sure to bring comfortable clothes and shoes. YAC would also like to thank the City Council and the community members for attending our trunk or treat and open mic night. Both events were well attended and everyone had a lot of fun. Finally, Thursday, November 11th is Veterans Day. YAC would like to thank all of our veterans for their service, courage, and hard work. YAC would like to remind everyone to please follow us on social media at Paris YAC for more updates and upcoming events. For more information on YAC, please call the Statler Youth Center. This concludes our updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Item 8 is our public comments. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
Anybody in the audience wishing to speak on any item that's not on the agenda? IT, anybody on Zoom?
No, sir.
Thank you. Item 9 is our approval of minutes. 9A is consideration to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on October 26, 2021, of the City Council, successor agency, the redevelopment agencies, and all the rest listed on our agenda. There are no discussion or items by the council. I entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Rab. Second by Councilman Corona. Please call a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Nava?
Yes.
Councilmember Corona?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rab?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Mayor Vargas?
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Item 10 is our consent calendar. Consent calendar items are normally enacted in one motion. The mayor or city council may remove a consent calendar item for separate action. We will have public comment, which will be limited to 3 minutes. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Anybody in the audience wishing to speak on this item? All right. Council, anybody have anything they want to pull for discussion?
Yes, item A for a separate vote, please.
Anything else? Okay, so the motion is to pass everything excluding A. Mayor Pro Tem Rab moves, second by Councilman Corona. Please call a roll call vote.
Councilmember Nava?
Yes.
Councilmember Corona?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rab? Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Mayor Vargas?
Yes,
5-0, motion approved.
thank you. Okay, Councilman Corona, if you don't have no discussion, we'll just call for a separate vote.
Sure.
All right, you want to motion that? A motion by Mayor Pro Tem Rab.
I'll second. Councilwoman Rogers.
Very good. Second by Councilman Rogers. Please call roll call vote.
Councilmember Nava?
No.
Councilmember Corona?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Rab? Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Mayor Vargas?
Yes.
Rab, Rogers, Vargas, yes. Nava, Corona, no.
Thank you. Item 11 is our public hearings. 11A is consideration to adopt proposed resolution numbers next in order regarding annexation of DPR 16-00014, that's the Paris Apartments, to the City Maintenance District. DPR 16-00014 is located at the southwest corner of 10th Street and South D Street. This will be introduced by our city engineer, Mr. Stuart McKibben.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Tonight's presentation will be made by Dulce Diaz from Wildan Financial.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. DPR 160014, otherwise known as Paris Apartments, is a construction of a 3-story multi-use building, commercial on the first floor, residential on the second and third floors, within the downtown specific plan. As a condition of approval, the project is required to annex into the city's 2 maintenance districts to pay for benefits and annual costs associated with this property once it is developed. The proposed maximum assessment, annual maximum assessment for the project is $3,658.55. On September 14th, the City Council approved resolutions initiating the annexation of this project and set tonight as the public hearings for those annexations. At this time, staff is asking the mayor to open and close public hearings. Following the hearings, the clerk is to open the ballots. There is 1 ballot per district. If there is no majority protest, then the City Council can consider the approval of the resolutions confirming these annexations. Unless there are any questions, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dulce. Okay, council, anybody have any items they want to, or anything they want to discuss before I open up the public comment? Don't see anybody in the queue. At this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Anybody in the audience wishing to speak on this particular item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Madam Clerk, can you open up the two ballots, please?
City of Paris annexation of DPR 16-00014, Maintenance District Number 84-1. The ballot is marked yes. City of Paris annexation of DPR 16-00014 to benefit zone 159, Landscape Maintenance District Number 1. The ballot is marked yes.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I entertain a motion to approve the two resolutions. A motion by Mayor Pro Tem Rab, second by Councilman Corona. Please call roll call vote.
Councilmember Nava?
Yes.
Councilmember Corona?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rab? Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Mayor Vargas?
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. 11B is consideration to adopt proposed resolution number next in order regarding annexation of PM 37760 to the Landscape Maintenance District Number 1. PM 37760 is located at the west frontage of Paris Boulevard, north of Orange Avenue. This will be introduced by our city engineer, Stuart McKibben.
And once again, I'd like to introduce Dulce Diaz from Wildan Financial to
Thank
make the
you.
presentation.
Good evening, once again, Mayor and Council members. PM 37760 is a construction of a 5,200 square feet multi-tenant building and 2,200 square feet fast food restaurant within the Paris Spectrum Shopping Center. As a condition of approval, the project is required to annex into the city's landscape maintenance district to pay for the benefits and annual costs associated with this property once it is developed. The proposed maximum annual assessment for this project is $8,354.30. On September 14th, the City Council approved resolutions initiating the annexations and of this project and set tonight as the public hearing for this annexation. At this time, staff is asking the mayor to open and close the public hearing. Following the hearing, the city clerk is to open the one ballot. If there is no majority protest, then the city council can consider the approval of the resolution confirming the annexation. Unless there are any questions, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Dulce. Council, anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Anybody in the audience wishing to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Madam Clerk, can you open up the ballot?
City of Paris annexation of PM 37760 to benefit zone 157, Landscape Maintenance District Number 1. The ballot is marked yes.
Thank you. I'll now entertain a motion on the resolution. I have a motion by Councilman Corona, second by Mayor Pro Tem Rab. Please call a roll call vote.
Councilmember Nava?
Yes.
Councilmember Corona?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rab?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Mayor Vargas?
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. 11C is consideration to introduce the first reading of proposed ordinance number next in order, amending the City of Paris Municipal Code declaring prima facie speed limits on certain city streets. This will be introduced by our city engineer, Mr. Stuart McKibben.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and city staff. Stuart McKibben, Interwest Consulting Group, and contract city engineer for the city of Paris. I'm here today with our consultant, Joy Bhattacharya, who's with AMG Mobility. He's on Zoom. And we hired AMG Mobility back in March of 2020 to conduct the traffic counts and speed surveys. Right after that, COVID hit, so we couldn't go out and do the surveys. We finally got enough traffic. We sent them out in November of 2020, and then again resurveyed some of the segments in June of 2021. As the speed limits are listed in the municipal code, we are introducing an ordinance to make those changes to the code. And at this time, I would like to make a correction to the resolution in front of you. In Section 8, there's a couple of misprints in there. And on Section 8, number 1 it should read 55 miles per hour on Case Road between Murrieta Road and Watson Road. That's what it should say. So we've missed some words there. And then on number 4 of Section 8, we should just delete all of number 4 where it says 55 miles per hour on Getz Road between Murrieta and Watson, because Murrieta and Getz never meet. So that was a mistake, and so we'll correct that when it comes back for the second reading here. Okay, and before I turn it over to Joy, I just want to emphasize that these recommendations are engineering's recommendations. The council has a discretion to approve them in whole or in part. That's up to you. There's some consequences and things that happen if we do decide to go against the recommendations. But Joy will talk about that. And I'll stay up here and flip the slideshow for Joy. Joy, are you on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Good evening, Mayor and Council member. I'm Joy Bhattacharya with Advanced Mobility Group, and I'll give you a brief overview of the speed survey that we conducted for your city. So a speed survey is typically conducted because it's the tool that is used to determine what the speed limit should be set at for a particular segment of roadway. And the speed limits are set to protect the drivers from reckless driving and provides a tool or provides the authority to the police department to be able to enforce speeding. So that's the main purpose of setting the speed limit. However, in order for posted speed limit to be enforceable, these speed surveys needs to be updated every 5 or 7 years. The last speed survey for City of Paris was conducted in 2014. So it is the 7th year, and that's the reason this we are needing to update the speed survey. So the speed surveys are conducted for all segments of the roadways where we want to enforce speed limit, which includes any new segment where prior speed surveys have not been conducted. It also includes any existing segments that has seen a significant change in the roadway characteristics or traffic volume, or also the segments that have expired. That means it has been over 7 years when the speed survey was conducted. Next slide, please. So in the next slide, we are basically showing that most of the speed surveys are conducted completely based on the standards that has been established in the guidelines for the California Vehicle Codes, as well as the California Manual for Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is also called the California MUTCD. So that provides the guidelines based on which we can establish the speed limit. The purpose of establishing the speed limit is to be able to avoid what is called the speed traps. And speed trap is a segment where the speed limits are posted below the prevailing speed limit, where drivers could feel safe to drive at a higher speed, but the speed limit is lower than what drivers feel safe to drive on. So those kind of things are termed as speed trap. So the California Vehicle Code actually provides guidelines as to how a speed survey should be done to be able to avoid speed traps. What it basically does is it allows the local authorities to post their speed limit anywhere between 25 miles per hour and 65 miles per hour. And the guideline says that it needs to be established based on what is called the engineering and traffic survey. And the California MUTCD goes into more detail as to the exact method that needs to be used to be able to conduct the engineering and traffic survey. The engineering and traffic surveys are pretty much based on 3 different items. One of them is the prevailing speed. The prevailing speed as defined in the MUTCD is basically the 85th percentile speed. And what the 85th percentile speed means is that 85% of the people are driving at or below that speed. So that means 15% of the people are driving above that speed when they are driving through that roadway. Then apart from prevailing speed, we take into account the traffic conditions on the highway, as well as the roadway conditions, as well as the collision rates. And we take into consider the roadway conditions that are specifically not apparent to the drivers. So that means that the driver does not realize while he's driving on that segment that there is some imminent issues, and those could be like collisions are very high, which the drivers are not aware of. There could be hidden driveways that the drivers can't see, or there could be schools or some senior facilities on the roadway that the drivers are not aware of. So those can be taken into account to reduce the speed limit further. So those are basically the three different items or elements that we take into account in establishing the speed limit based on the California MUTCD. So going through the study, thank you, Stu. Going from the study, it was established that the speed summary that we were able to come up with basically says that we're able to decrease the speed limit at one segment. For most of the segment, the speed limit remains unchanged. So 33 out of 58 segments, there is no change or recommended change to the speed limits. There has been a change.
Hold on, Joy.
Sure.
Hold on 1 second. IT, can you move? Yeah, thank you. All right, Joy, go ahead.
Okay. So just going through the slide, this is a summary of our findings or recommendation. So as you can see that the decrease in the posted speed limit is recommended for one location. For the 33 segments, it is recommended that the speed limits remains the same. For 15 locations, the speed limit has to increase by 5 miles per hour based on the guidelines from MUTCD. And for 5 locations, the speed limit needs to increase by 10 miles per hour. And there are 4 segments, which are new segments where speed surveys were not conducted earlier. So those are also recommended with new posted speed limit. One thing to note on this is out of the 5 segments where the posted speed limit is increasing by 10 miles per hour, 4 of them were not surveyed as part of the previous engineering and traffic survey. And those are in the industrial area, where the posted speed limits were not set by an engineering study, and therefore it was not enforceable. So in order to make it enforceable, like 4 out of the 5 needs to have an increase of 10 miles per hour in the speed limit. And all of them are in the industrial area. Into the next slide, this is just a visual representation of the speed limit to be able to look at it in an easy way. This shows the northern segment of the city where the speed limits are color coded. So each segment, based on the color code, you can determine what the recommended speed limit is. Along with that, it also shows the segment number as well the existing speed limit if the speed limit is being recommended to change for that segment. So this is just a representation. The actual list of all the segments and the recommended speed limit along with the existing speed limit is included in the staff report as well as the report created by AMG. So in the next slide, it's the same graphics which shows the recommended speed limit for the southern section of the city. In the next slide, we talk about, and this is where I would like to also add, as Stu was mentioning, that the recommendations are completely based on the MUTCD guidelines, but it is the discretion of City Council members to either accept the recommended speed limit partially or fully, or set or decide to keep it at the previously set speed limit and not to make any change. However, if the change is not made, and somebody is given a ticket, he could go to the court and he may win based on the fact that limit was or speed survey was not conducted or used to set the speed limit. However, in the future, there is some changes that is going to happen. There has been some recent development in setting future speed limit. The Assembly Bill 43 was signed into law by Governor Newsom on October 8, 2021. It gives the city more flexibility on how the speed limits are set, and city is given the option to reduce the speed limit further from the recommended speed limit that is based on the California MUTCD by another 5 miles per hour or more by creating safety corridors. And that is giving us city more flexibility to be able to adjust the speed limit. So currently the speed limits are set based on 85th percentile speed, as I mentioned, and then the flexibility is very limited. So if, for example, if the 85th percentile speed is at 33 miles per hour, that means 85% of people are driving at or below 33 miles per hour, then the speed limit needs to be set at a 5 mile increment, nearest 5 mile increment of that 33 miles per hour 85th percentile speed. So which means it should be set at 35 miles per hour. And based on other factors, like the things that are not apparent to the driver, it can be reduced by 5 miles per hour. So the speed limit can be set at 30 miles per hour. So if it is 85 percentile, speed is 33, the lowest speed limit that can be set based on MUTCD is 30 miles per hour. Whereas if the 85th percentile is 32 miles per hour, then the nearest 5 mile increment is 30 miles per hour, which can be further reduced to 25 miles per hour. So if there is a difference of 1 mile per hour in the 85th percentile speed, it will result in a difference of 5 miles per hour in setting the speed limit. And the AB 43 will allow the city to further reduce it by that 5 miles per hour, making it more flexible for the city to determine the speed limit. However, this will only be effective from June 30th, 2024. So we have 3 years or 2.5 years still before it gets affected. And once it's affected, the city can further do another study or update the ETS and be able to set the speed limits. City has already started the process, which is called the local roadway safety program study, that they will identify the safe corridors. And on the safety corridors, the city would have the flexibility to reduce the speed limit further. With that, I can open up to questions. And Stu, if you wanted to add anything to the presentation.
Thank you, Joy. And so that's our presentation. If you have any questions, that'll be great. And this is a public hearing, so we'll need to open it up for comment.
All right, I'm going to have a series of questions. If you all do as well, I want to just ask you if you have any requests for clarification. We'll do the questioning after I do the public hearing. So does anybody have anything they clarified before we move on to public hearing?
Kind of have a question.
Okay, let's say, yeah. All right, so Rita, you have something for clarification?
Yes, I was just wondering if our police captain, Matt Sims, or Lieutenant Portillo have
Yes.
had a chance to weigh in on this, because I think their input would be greatly appreciated and help us in our decision-making process.
Absolutely, Councilman Rogers. We submitted the study to those two and also Sergeant Hibbler, and Sergeant Hibbler is here tonight, so I'll step aside.
We're not going to go into Q&A right now. She's just clarifying if they're here. or
Yes,
if
they're
they
here,
input.
and they've seen the study. They've had it for
Gonna
a couple weeks.
We're going to open a public hearing, and then I'll go back, and then we'll do all our Q&As. Councilwoman Rogers, was that it? Do you have any more?
Yes, that was it.
Councilwoman Nava, did you have anything for clarification? Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, do we have any requests? I'm going to open up the public hearing. Do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Anybody in the audience wishing to speak on this particular item? Okay, great. We will now close public hearing, and if you all please use the queue so I can keep some orderly here going on. I'm going to let our ladies start first since they're on Zoom. Councilman Nava, did you have anything you wanted to ask?
I did, thank you, Mayor. So just a few questions that I had. Stuart mentioned that there would be some consequences if we provided some feedback. So if we wanted to decrease any certain number, what would be the consequences if you could spell those out?
What would typically happen is we could have Sergeant Hippler talk about how that would affect them in writing of tickets. But if they did write a ticket, if it was challenged in court and the speed limit was not set per state law and guidelines, that the person who challenged the ticket could very well win. So it'd be hard to enforce. And I'll step aside for Sergeant Hippler. Here he is.
Good evening. That's exactly what would happen. Without the traffic engineering survey, we would not be afforded an opportunity to use radar or LiDAR when we're out enforcing speed. We would only be allowed to cite for exceeding the state max speed. So it would fall into the category of a speed trap if we are enforcing speed in those areas where there is no traffic and engineering survey, other than the prima facie speed for local residential streets, where the speed limit would be 25 miles an hour.
Okay, thank you. And another question that I have that might be best suited for the engineers is I know I received several complaints from residents who live in the residential area on Ramona Expressway. And I noticed that on the report, it says that it's 60 miles per hour, Ramona Expressway between Avalon and Ryder. So my question is, how do we decrease individuals who, for example, enter the residential areas from going such high speeds and then having to slow down that, which may not be very apparent to them that now they're in residential area and, there's a lot more safety concerns. What is some measures that can be taken to alleviate some of that speeding that happens in those residential areas immediately as they're coming off those corridors?
Well, there are traffic calming devices that can be used. Usually radar feedback signs are very effective. Sometimes road narrowing is effective where the drivers don't have as much room to maneuver, so they don't feel as safe, so they go slower. But the radar feedback signs tend to be very good, and I know the city police department has several of those that they can use. Typically, that's what we've seen to be done. Usually stop signs or traffic signals are not viable options to slow people down. They're really for right-of-way, so people, when they come up to across an intersection, they know who's supposed to go next. That's what those are for, rather than to control speeding. So usually those aren't used, but radar feedback signs do have, they work on me, I know that much, so.
Thank you. That was just one of the concerns that I had, that where the drivers will be going at higher rates, higher speeds, and then if, let's say, for example, they kick a right turn into residential street, then that level, they don't oftentimes meet or decrease their driving limit. So that's just something that I wanted to be conscious of and bring it up for feedback.
We will do.
Councilwoman Rogers, do you have anything?
I just wanted to make sure that our law enforcement officers had a chance to weigh in. And if they've had a chance to review and make the comments, and that those comments have been taken into consideration as part of the survey, those were just my concerns. So perhaps if we could have any feedback on that, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Well, we have discussed it I have discussed it personally with Sergeant Hibbler, but I haven't heard of any changes that he would suggest.
Well, I think the better question is the police buying into this report that is being told to us now?
Yes, we do, madam.
You gotta wait till you get to the microphone, sir.
Sorry. Yes, we do. We do agree with the traffic engineering survey for the speed limits.
Okay, anything else, Councilwoman Rogers?
No, that was my main concern. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. McKibben. Thank you, everyone, for providing input on the survey. I just wanted to know, what would the repercussions be if we decided to pick certain areas and to keep the areas where the speed is getting increased, we decided to keep the already posted speed or the lower speed in those areas?
I believe the result would be that you would not be able to enforce the speed limits with radar or LiDAR, and that if you were challenged, if you did write a ticket and you were and they challenged the ticket in court, that they would most likely win, and I would defer to the city attorney on that as well.
And I think I've heard something that in the future we would be able to set our own speed limits, or is that?
Within, you can have further reductions of 5 miles an hour of the speed limit if the city was to name certain roads as safety corridors, like Ramon Expressway would be a good example, Paris Boulevard, 4th Street. Those are where we have high traffic accidents already, great volume. That's one of the things that came out of our local road safety plan. So here's where the accidents are occurring. And so we can name those as corridors, and then the city council could say, yes, your speed survey says 40, but we, based on the criteria of what the state allows, we think it should be 35.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I just had a comment. We could look into possibly making A Street a safety corridor. I know the report states under item 48 to increase the speed limit on A Street from 35 to 40 miles an hour for the section between Mountain Avenue and Ellis Avenue. As somebody that runs that area once or twice a week, there's multiple schools in that area. You have Railroad Elementary, Pinacati Middle School, Rotary Park. Well, Rotary Park's on the other side of Ellis, but I think that it would be better off keeping that at 35. But I do understand if we were to keep it at 35, it would preclude the officers from writing tickets in that area. I just think that would just further incentivize people to go faster on that street. I think the design of that street was just wrong for making it too wide and not easy for pedestrian access. Another area that I have concerns with is number 38, Nuevo to San Jacinto, going south to San Jacinto. That would be increasing that speed area from 40 to 45. In that area, you have Paris High School, you have Temple Christian School, you have a mid-block crosswalk right around Temple Christian School. So if we could potentially make that a safety corridor as well. And then the last area would be number 40, which would be increasing the speed limit on A Street from Hyla Vista Way to Metz Road, once again, from 25 to 45. This is in the school area. You have CMI in that area. But I do understand that we have to set the speeds based on the speed survey. I just have concerns regarding schools in the area, pedestrians in the area, and the means of incentivizing drivers if they see a 45 to go 50 versus if there's a 40 to go 45. So those are just my comments for the future.
And I'd like to point out to you, Mayor Pro Tem, is that the new AB 43 would allow the city greater latitude for where are schools and what the speed limits should be nearby schools or where seniors are or children or people with disabilities, and also on commercial areas. So we'd have more flexibility on that. I think the limit, though, is just 20% of the city's roads can be classified as a safety corridor.
Councilman Corona?
Thank you, Mayor. I absolutely don't disagree with it because I'm not the traffic engineer here. But I do want to give a comment on one item that I was kind of concerned about, and it was number 38. So segment number 38. No, I'm sorry. No, that was Councilman Ram. It was the one on. Geez, I just had it. It was from San Jacinto from Wilson to Dunlap. 43.
Yeah.
43. I kind of know this area because I take my son and drop him off at school. And I know that San Jacinto, it is a long road. People are coming from Paris to Nuevo and vice versa. So it's a long road, but it's not a developed road. It's only 2 ways each way. There's no center divider in much of the location. There's no stop signs at Dunlap. And I believe we had a resident here last meeting. He spoke about the safety of that issue. Do we plan on putting any traffic signals or any stop signs on Dunlap and San Jacinto? Because I feel like if they're going 55 miles an hour with no center divider, it's going to be some issues. So I totally understand the concern. With we're trying to make it enforceable, but I feel like if we just increase it, there's going to be concerns for safety issues.
Correct. So we listened to the testimony at the last council meeting, and we've been looking at what kind of methods we can use to help on the intersection of Dunlap and San Jacinto Avenue. More reflectors, because there's no power out there, so we can't do a street light right away. So more reflectors, so you could see that there's an intersection there, because one person did get killed, and Sergeant Hippler could tell us a little bit about that at that intersection, so that they know an intersection's coming up and to be wary. There is no stop sign on San Jacinto Avenue. There is one on Dunlap. They come up to the T and stop. So we're investigating that. And then there's also new development proposed in the area, the Park West specific plan. They have some phases that are coming forward, and we're working with them on further safety enhancements on that road. So we're in discussions with that on San Jacinto Avenue, particularly between Dunlap and one of their interior streets. So where they would get more people. So that's what we're doing. But no road widening, we're not looking at that at the moment. They would be done by the developer when they came in.
So a three-way stop with solar lights wouldn't be an option?
I would not recommend solar lighting. It's just because if it's, overcast and they don't charge up and then they go out, right?
Okay.
Right?
Well, we don't think about it on the stop sign, so people can see the stop sign.
Right. So one of the things we're talking about is, intersection ahead signals that have flashing lights on them, so people know that there's an intersection coming up.
Okay.
And then putting reflectors on the center stripes, putting a double yellow. Right now it's a single yellow. Putting a double yellow. We'll put the buttons, the reflecting buttons on the road, so the intersection will now light up, right, when they're coming down at night with their headlights on. So that's the idea. But to get power out there, even though there's the Edison poles that run along San Jacinto Avenue, those are transmission lines. You can't really tap into those.
Right.
You got to tie into distribution lines. So we'd have to run a lot, almost a mile worth of conduit to get to the site to power them up.
Okay. Now with the speed limit on the county side, if you go keep on going east on San Jacinto, is that posted for the speed limit over there?
I do not know what the speed limit is. I'd have to look on my computer and Google Earth and tell you.
Okay, because I'm thinking it'll make sense to see what the county has and then make sure it's similar to do that. So I just have a concern with that because I actually drive there and it's pretty hectic in the morning. That whole area, San Jacinto, Dunlap, Wilson, Marietta, it's kind of pretty hectic there. But okay, thank you.
So this is going to be implemented in June 30th, 24.
AB 43, yes.
Oh, AB 43 comes in there.
That's when it's in effect. Ours is after, I don't know how many days after the second reading.
30 days after second reading. But the Assembly bill doesn't take effect till 2024.
Okay.
And then.
So we're going to go through a $20,000 expense of re-signage and then possibly have to go back and redo it after AB 43 comes into play.
Well,
possibly.
20,000 is an estimate to make sure we have enough dollars.
No, I get it.
But then you can reuse the signs as you move them up.
So, Joy, when you do your study, do you even speak to the police department?
We do get input from the city, from the police department and the city staff, but our recommendation is not based on what we hear from them, although we take that into consideration because we need to base it on speed survey that we conducted as well as the collision history on the roadway.
So when you do a survey, all you're doing is putting a rubber strip across the road and just collecting data from that?
Yes, we do put in rubber strip or to collect the traffic volume, but we also do radar enforcement in the sense we use radar guns from the side of the street to be measuring the speed.
So how do you factor in pedestrians with a rubber track and a radar?
In addition to doing that, we also drive the street. So we drive each and every corridor and observe. We do video recording of all the corridors, which we look through to identify if there is a lot of pedestrian activities, bicycle activities, if there are seniors walking around the street, and we take that into account. And if you look at the reductions that we have made by 5 miles per hour on multiple roadways, they were based on those safety issues. But our hands are tied. We cannot reduce it more than that 5 miles per hour. So if as I mentioned, if the 85th percentile is 33 miles per hour, the nearest 5 mile increment is 35 miles per hour, and we can only reduce it till 30 miles per hour. And that is based on all these characteristics that are not apparent to regular drivers.
No, I get all that. I'm retired law enforcement. I don't support the 85% rule.
Yes.
And I'm grateful for AB 43. But I'm just concerned that, that how well the visual part was taking place. So, for example, Webster Avenue, which is item number 14 on table 4, that got increased to 10 miles per hour, and I'm assuming mostly because aside from it's the percentile, 85 percentile, and it's a lot of industrial, but there's a school district headquarters on Morgan and Webster. There's a county school at the corner of Webster and Morgan, and next to that is a continuation high school. And as a former school board member for that district, I know there's a lot of pedestrian traffic there, and that concerns me that we're jumping up from 35 to 45. That should be a school zone in there, Sergeant. Isn't there a school zone in there?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Me neither.
I would have to go back and look.
Yeah.
I don't want to misquote.
I was concerned about San Jacinto Avenue, Wilson Avenue, Dunlap, as you mentioned, Councilman Corona. Bradley Road, Ramona Expressway, east of Ryder, they're, again, I don't know, I don't remember. I take my grandkids to school every morning there, Joy, and I don't remember seeing people parked and watching traffic and what have you, but that's a traffic route to 2 local schools in that neighborhood, and yet Bradley is bad enough with racers, and now we're going to post that at 45. I mean, I don't know. But then again, I'm not the expert. I'm just stating.
So one of the things we can do, Mayor and council members, is go back and resurvey some of these streets where are the road segments where there are concerns to see if our numbers are correct. Maybe now with even more traffic on, we did this last in June, and maybe COVID was still having effect, and maybe now with more traffic on the road, it slowed down a little bit, and we can go back and resurvey those. And
Yeah, I mean, and that's fine. I don't want to delay this project. I mean, this is our first reading. We got a second reading. We can make those changes because I need these police to have those signs up there in order to be able to effectively enforce traffic. Bear with me as I'm trying to read my scribbling here. So here's another concern of mine. We've got Ryder Street and Old Evans Road. We're going to, oh, never mind, that's a decrease. That's good. But the question is, so you're going to do, this is 18 on the very first table, Ryder Street, number 18. So from Old Evans Road clear up to Bradley, we're going to decrease from 45 to 40. What is the speed limit from Old Evans to Paris Boulevard? Is that 45 now as well? Is all of Ryder 45? Sergeant, do you know off the top of your head? I drive there every day, but I don't recall.
Yes, it is 45.
So there's a few places throughout this report. Evans Road especially, Ramon Expressway to Markham, they're going to increase from 45 to 50. Evans Road from 40 to 45 between Morgan. My concern is, what is a speed trap? Is it a speed trap where you got 50, all of a sudden it drops down to 45, the next block, all of a sudden it goes back up to 60? Aren't those speed traps?
That's a good technical question. I think, Joy, do you have a answer for what's the definition of a speed trap?
The speed trap definition is if it is posted lower than the actual prevailing speed on that roadway, that is considered as a speed trap. And also we need to avoid very short segment of roadway where there is a change in speed limit. And typically change of 5 miles per hour is allowed, but a change of sudden drop of 10 miles per hour is not recommended.
So long as you stay within 5 miles.
That's correct.
All right, well, as long as our police officers aren't citing someone for going that 5 for one block, you know, to me, that's a speed trap. I mean, anyway, okay. All right, we beat this enough. Did you get all the comments you needed?
I got the comments, although I would like clarification on the segments that the council has concerns with. For example, Mayor, I know 14, 17, and 43 for you, and then at the end, I think it was kind of Evans Road, like everything on Evans Road?
Well, you need to look at Evans Road and see the, you know, what the survey did was just list its recommendation. Well, what's the next piece of that? The next 2-3 blocks? Where are they at? I mean, it seems like reading this and not really knowing what it is right now. Obviously, it's going to be different. We're going to be going up and down on Evans when it comes to speed.
Well, on the map, Evans Road within the city limits is going to be 40, it's green, it's shown as green on the map, and there's Evans Road.
Wow,
and it's shown as green, and it's shown all as 40 miles an hour from Ramon Expressway down to the county line, and then it's 40 miles an hour south of there.
Was that map in our because I didn't see that when I went through my notes.
It's the first attachment in the or
But
the
look how
first
small
attachment
that
in the
is.
staff report.
So you got,
I can send you a much better PDF that you can blow up and.
yes, and that's to all of
for
us. We
that.
cannot read things that we blow up and it's distorted, so. All right, so just double check on that, on Evans. I think you got everybody else's. I did have a note here, A Street. I think Mayor Pro Tem brought that up.
It's segment 40. I believe it was segment 40?
Segment 40.
Yes.
For 40, it's posted speed limit is 25, I guess, because of the school zone. But it says recommended speed limit 45. So what are we doing? Are we doing the school zone or we're going to do 45? That's 3 schools right there. That whole strip should be all school zone, 25 miles an hour. I'm not an expert, but I am a retired Los Angeles school police officer. Hello.
And I'm not going to challenge you on anything like that, but I understand it is when children are present. So like on weekends and things like that.
Okay.
They can go
Yes,
faster.
so there is a signage for school zone, which is at 25 miles per hour, but it cannot be extended for the entire corridor because it has to be limited to 500 feet from the nearest school boundary. So within that boundary, when children are present, people need to drive at 25 miles per hour and it is enforceable.
Okay, so that brings up another point. If we can make sure that the school zones are 500 feet. Rancho's a bad example. My kids went to Rancho, but the school zone, whatever, started at the borderline of Rancho, literally. That's not 500 feet, but that's not our school to worry about. But I'm concerned about our other schools in our city. I'm suspecting we're not really clearly marking them 500 feet. And I'm sure council gets a lot of complaints about parents who are not. So stop signs and tri-lights, red signal lights, as the police know and everybody else knows. And Paris, that's a recommendation. It's a suggestion. It's not a mandatory thing that you have to stop. Our people roll through stops, fly through stop signs and red lights. So the school zones are very high level of complaints that I receive anyway, that people are not stopping. So we can make sure those schools, it's a better, more tool for our law enforcement to have to start citing people that are not adhering to these rules. And that's something within the surveys by law, 500 feet, so. All right, did we cover everything else, guys, ladies? Anybody's numbers?
Yeah, I want to go ahead and circle back to my comments where I think we all have a consensus that we're concerned about safety issues, right? So again, on Ramona Expressway, it's the suggested speed limit is 60 miles per hour.
Can you tell us what number you're looking at on the?
It's between Avalon and Ryder. Let me see what number.
Number 13? 13?
Yeah, it must be number 13. And so if you look, there's residential areas there that switch to 25 miles per hour. And again, the same scenario happens for, I believe, I don't have the number in front of me, but it's in the villages of Avalon where I think it's the last one. 60 miles, 50, no, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. But again, it encourages 60 miles per hour. And then again, there's several entryways into residential, which 25 miles per hour is suggested there. And one of the things that I think we're concerned is that people there isn't that immediate reaction where I'm gonna decrease my speed significantly to make sure I'm driving safely. So again, the speed limits are increased, but there isn't anything else to alleviate that. So that's one of my main concerns. And if I could recommend is to look at which areas have that great gap between, let's say they're going 55 miles per hour, where then they have to decrease all the way down to 25 miles per hour. And there's several opportunities that you could see that throughout these various points where they don't decrease the speed immediately, and there isn't a stop sign or anything of that nature. It's just they curve right or left, and then they're into residential. So I could go back and pinpoint specifically which ones I'm referring to, if that's something that's necessary, or if staff just wants to go ahead and take that into consideration.
I'll reach out to you after the meeting.
Okay, sounds good. And then another thing for Nuevo Road is that there's jumps from 40 miles per hour to 55 miles per hour on that same Nuevo Road. So that's something to consider. That's a 15 mile per hour difference. And those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
14, 43, 17, 40.
48. And Councilman Nava brought up
18.
35 and 13.
Yep. You said 48. You got 48?
Yes, I have 48 from
All right.
Councilman Rapp.
Okay. Joy, thank you very much for your presentation, sir. Sergeant, thank you.
Thank you.
And Stuart, thank you. Okay, no one else has anything, so we're going to move on. Not yet, I got to open up the public hearing. Well, this is a public hearing, I asked for
It
comments.
is, and there were no comments.
There were no comments, so we took care of that already. All right. So that being said, I will call for a motion. For what? For the first reading of this. No change, all these changes are going to come back on the second reading.
Yeah, you're right.
We need to pass this and get the ball rolling.
Would you like to, I mean, there were a few different options. One, you could continue it, bring it back for a first reading and see if the changes are right. You could introduce the first reading, leaving out all of the items that Mr. McKibben just said, and for further discussion, and pass all the rest in the ordinance, and then he could bring those back in the future.
Sergeant Hibbler, did we meet the timeline you were concerned about with all this stuff?
Yes, we did meet the time limit.
Okay. So if we can come back with the first reading again, it's not going to hurt us.
No.
I think that'd be the more cleaner way, don't you? It's a lot of different issues here. We're not sure what they're going to be able to resolve.
Defer to Mr. McKibben, but it sounds like it might, there were enough questions here
Yeah.
that the council had.
Let's
that
go
it
ahead
might
and
be
do
better
that.
come
It's going to
back.
give you some time to figure all this out because we gave you a lot of homework. And then it's, and
Resurvey some of the areas if it works out to see if I got it. And we could resurvey some of the areas too. We could work with our consultant on
well,
that.
that can be done before our next meeting.
Um,
I don't want to keep prolonging this as long.
I-
Look into it, see what you got to do.
I don't, A continuance, maybe 6 weeks or something like that? That would give us enough time.
That would be the first meeting in December.
That's
Good with
okay.
that? Yes. And then 30 more days after that for this final reading, and then, all right, let's do that. This way we're not stressing you out. I know you have a lot on your plate.
Oh, that's
You can
fine.
work
This is-
weekends.
Yes,
Okay.
but this is my job. I like it.
Good. All right, so we're just, so I have to keep this hearing open now or no?
Actually, I don't think this is a noticed hearing in the fact that, like, in the sense that it went to the paper like a planning issue. So I don't think that I don't think you need to take any action at all.
Okay.
Just consensus, and then it'll be brought back.
Give me thumbs up, guys. Everybody good? We're gonna bring this back? Okay. All right. So do your homework, please.
December 8th,
All right. Item
14th.
11D. Consideration to conduct a public hearing to receive input from the community regarding a district-based election system for city council. Oh, sure. Where is she at? All right, folks, we have a time element with our lobbyist who's got a plane to catch, so we're gonna move up item number 12, and we'll come back to 11D. Michelle, I do apologize. I know where you're at. I've been there.
No.
So 12A is our legislative update under our business items, and this will be introduced by our city manager, Clara Miramontes.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. I'd like to introduce Michelle Rubalcaba, a senior counsel at Nielsen Mercksheimer, to provide an annual legislative update tonight.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I am so pleased to be with you tonight here in person. It's been a while since I've got to see you all in person, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much, and thank you for accommodating my travel plans. Really quick, for 2022, there is going to be an inclusion of my colleague Maddie Cooper, who is going to be on the City of Paris team. We have been working on a lot of great things, and it doesn't change the retainer fee or anything like that, but she's going to be joining the City of Paris, and I will send out a bio so that you guys can get to know her. She's a junior lobbyist at my firm, and she'll be helping us on some City of Paris items. I just wanted to let you guys know that. Really quickly, governor recall aftermath, I wanted to share with you all. We obviously went through the recall election. Governor Newsom had up and down. Was he going to be recalled? Was he not going to be recalled? He ended up getting about 60% of the vote. And for him specifically, he feels like that was validation of his agenda, and so I think that Governor Newsom will continue to press his progressive agenda in 2022 as an FYI for the city. Our budget was one of the largest budgets this state has seen in quite a while. As the revenues are starting to come in, we will be anticipating another rather large state surplus, which allows for some positioning for City of Paris priorities in 2022. Some of the hot topic bills that came out of this legislative session had a lot to do with housing. There was a package of bills that was passed by the Senate Democrats that allow for larger density and infill housing. One in particular, which garnered significant concerns, was the ability to take a single family lot and put in up to 4 units. That was passed and is law, but it is up to localities to implement. The priority bill for the City of Paris in 2021 was a Senator Glazer bill, again, SB 792, having to do with sales tax allocation. This is one of the primary reasons why I represent the City of Paris in Sacramento. And again, we were engaged with Senator Glazer in his attempts to alter or reform the sales tax allocation. And fortunately for us, we were able to receive another veto from Governor Newsom on this bill. I do want to thank the city and your city manager for her engagement on these efforts. It was not easy, and Mayor Vargas was also included in some of this advocacy. So I want to thank you for being my partners up in Sacramento. I think we did a great job. Right after the bill was vetoed, there was some machinations at the statewide association, the League of California Cities, where a resolution was introduced to also reform sales tax allocation. Your city manager was heavily involved in those negotiations and the coalition that was built around the opposition to that resolution, and ultimately was defeated. So that is another victory for your city manager. She was very engaged, as was Mayor Pro Tem Rab at the conference in Sacramento. So I want to thank you all for your participation in that. Next steps, we are actively trying to pursue City of Paris participation in some of these key committees at the statewide association, and we continue to try and bring the City of Paris's perspective to the state on this issue. 2022, there will be some pretty interesting initiatives. I just listed them here for you. If you have any interest in the details of this, my firm is involved in most of these, and so we can give you one-page briefs on these issues if any of these are of interest to the council. Looking forward to 2022, I think that 2021 was very successful for us. I would like for the city to take a more proactive engagement with Sacramento and the legislative delegation, and some of these things are possibly sponsoring a bill on an issue that the city would like to tackle, engaging in the budget process in Sacramento via our senator and our assembly member, or if there are certain solutions that I can deliver legislatively that are compounding city efforts. And also any items that you might think of in a regulatory arena, if there is a department or an agency where some of your department heads are having problems, I would like for you to consider me as part of your problem-solving team. That is it. If you have any questions, I am grateful again to have been your advocate in Sacramento. It is always a pleasure working on your behalf.
Thank you, Michelle. Anybody have any comments, quick comments, questions?
Yeah, quick comments. No, yeah.
All right, go catch your plane. Thank you. We'll email if we have anything. All right, we're going to go back to 11D. Consideration to conduct a public hearing to receive input from the community regarding a district-based selection system for city council. This will be introduced by our city attorney, Mr. Eric Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is going to kick off a series of hearings after the council's direction to begin the process of changing from at-large direct elections to district-based elections. We do have a consultant, Andrew Westell, who is on Zoom to answer any questions, but as you'll see, this is the first of a series of hearings that there's really not a lot to do other than ask for community and council input, because in the first two hearings, you're not allowed to have maps. As some of you are aware, the Riverside County has maps that they're reviewing, and they have a number of them. But at this point in the process, we do not have a map yet, and we cannot have one until the third hearing. This process assumes that the council will change to a by-district form of elections, and so that the city will be changed, not including the at-large mayor, but the council will have like 4 districts. They have to be equally, the population has to be roughly equal, within like 2%, and I'll get to some of the factors that are involved. And then the people, those council members have to live in the district and be elected by people in that district, as opposed to the city at large. The process in the government code requires at least 4 public hearings. You have to have at least 2 hearings before you consider maps, so that you can get community and council input on how the districts might be formed. After that, a map will be drawn by Mr. Westell's firm, and then at least one, it might be more than one, to suggest how the council districts might be drawn. Then there's at least 2 more public hearings looking at maps, getting more further public input. And then at the end of the process, the council will adopt a resolution or ordinance that would adopt the map that would be, would change to districts. The process needs to be done by April of 2022 in order to take place for the 2022 election in November. So as long as, there's a few months out for this process to take place, as long as the maps are drawn by the end of March, it will meet the deadline for the November 2022 election. So what has to happen? There'll be a hearing tonight, another hearing on November 30th to get input from the council and the community on how these districts should be drawn. Basically, they have to be substantially equal in population. So if you take the roughly 80,000 people, 79,000 people in Paris, that each district will have to have, 19,500 people, give or take, within 2%. You want to keep it very even. It doesn't matter that there might be changes in the next 10 years. It's what we have now, not 10 years from now.
Right.
Some of the basic rules, you have to comply with the federal and state voting rights acts, but if you just kind of distill it down, they have to be geographically contiguous, so that you really want to have areas. If you look at Paris, you might have 4 blocks and not have like weird, gerrymandered type districts where the things are not contiguous. You need to establish the districts that are communities of interest. So like the people in the South Paris might have a community of interest that might be different from Northeast Paris. And so you want to draw those, so like along highways, natural or artificial borders, freeways, water courses, anything like that that kind of keeps communities of interest together. They should be easily identifiable, so they should be something that you can look at on a map and see like, okay, that I live in District 1, and that should be something that you could look at. And they should be compact, geographically compact, so that you don't have, I know I'm making air quotes here, but you've seen, probably all have seen like federal districts that are like drawn in like long drawn out things to pick up, little areas over here and there. But in a city, you're supposed to draw them compactly, communities of interest, natural, artificial barriers, streets, boundaries of the city, and the like. Cannot be drawn to favor or discriminate against any political party, so that it's a nonpartisan thing. So it can't be done to favor, like, you wouldn't align them necessarily with your assembly or senate districts or congressional districts or something. It really is something for the city of Paris. So this first hearing is just to gain, as I said, just to gather input from the council and the community. I don't know if Mr. Westall has anything to add to this brief presentation, but we're here to gather information and then go from here.
I really don't have anything to add, Mr. Dunn. It's a pleasure to see you, Mayor and council members. My name's Andrew Westall. I'm with Bear Demographics and Research, and we're looking forward to working with you and the residents of the city throughout this process. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. As Mr. Dunn pointed out earlier, the adjusted population for the city is 79,092 people, and so the ideal population for the 4 council districts would be 19,773. Certainly we don't have to have, as was stated earlier, equal population, and we do have some flexibility with what's called a deviation. Once we start drawing maps, we'll certainly take a look at those issues and walk the council through the various renditions. So once again, I'm available for any questions that the mayor and council may have, and once again, happy to be here.
And I would add that the reason we have Mr. Westall engaged to do this is that it has to be, you need a demographics consultant to actually look at all the voting records and draw the things that appropriately, and it's not something that we can just do at a staff level.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Westall, for being here. Council,
Thank you,
any
Mayor.
questions? I have Councilman Corona in the queue.
Thank you. I kind of just want clarification, Mr. Dunn. When you said it's based on the population now, it's based on the population on April 1st, 2020, or when?
It will be based on the brand-new census count. So,
Okay.
right now, the city is actually doing this right after the decennial census, so we will have the actual numbers from the census. My point was that you don't, unless you have some kind of challenge where you're going to redraw the districts based on like a court order or some kind of challenge, you'll draw the districts now. As Mr. Westall said, you'll have 19,700 people in a district, but you won't redraw the districts until 10 years from now. And so there you might have population growth in the south part of Paris or in the north or somewhere around. Maybe you might even expand the city into a sphere of influence and pick up different areas, but you won't redraw those districts until next decade.
Okay.
Right.
So you might end up with over the next 5-6 years, one district might have more people than another, but you don't redraw the districts based on that,
Okay. Thank you.
unless the law changes, but.
Anybody else? Councilwoman Rogers?
Mr. Dunn, earlier you said that we would be going to by districts. And I know at a previous meeting, Councilmember Nava and both Mayor Pro Tem Rab had discussed about from districts. Has the decision been made, or we haven't even discussed that component yet?
Councilwoman Rogers, I don't think we have specific direction. I think our office has been working on the premise that it would be by district. In the state of California, I'm not aware of any city that does from district. I'm aware of special districts that do it that way, from division. And the difference is, if you're from district, you have to live in the district, but you're elected by the residents as a whole. Maybe Mr. Westall has a different opinion of this, but I don't believe that any city in California does a from district that I'm
No,
aware
you're
of.
right. Yes, you're right, Mr. Dunn. It's certainly very rare. The only city that I'm aware of is the city of Alhambra. And they were challenged with a lawsuit in the last couple of years. City of Alhambra is one of my other clients. And so they've had, elections where you had an at-large election citywide, but they came from the 5 council districts in this particular situation. They're transitioning to district elections now. And so as I work with them to draw that new map, they'll have district elections in November of 2022.
Which will be by district elections.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I just remembered that conversation had been raised previously, so I didn't know if it had been decided.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I have a question. Do we have any updates on the Santa Monica case with the California Supreme Court?
I don't have one on offhand. I don't know if Mr. Westall has. The difference is that the Santa Monica case and the change there was due to challenges based on minority, majority representation, district representation, which we in Paris had that challenge about 4 years ago. So, but in this instance, this change is not being made in response to any sort of challenge. It's just being made by the council itself. But I believe that in Santa Monica has been successful in defending that lawsuit.
Is that it?
That's it for now.
Anybody else? My favorite preference is by district. I mean, the whole purpose of me wanting to go to district is to have equal representation throughout the city, and each district would be elected by the district so that the people that live in that district has input with their respective council person. Aside from that, I have no other comments. I mean, this is just really a public hearing. So I'm going to open up the public hearing now. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Anybody in the audience wishing to speak on this item? Councilwoman Alva, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I still had a question. Sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So my question was, as far as timeline, do we see this happening and getting it all done by April of next year? I know that's the deadline. As far as drawing out maps, or my question, mostly is I just want to make sure that this is done well and it's well thought of, and that we have a lot of community feedback. So just wanted to see, based on other cities, like how long this process is.
That's a great question, Councilmember. In general, the city needs to be completed with this process, as Mr. Dunn said, by April 17th of next year, of 2022, for it to take effect for the November 2022 city's election. Certainly it's my opinion that the city has plenty of time to go through this process. It's a good thing that we're starting now, and it's certainly my recommendation to try to wrap this up by the end of March. And then in case we have any hiccups at the end of the process, we'll have a little extra time till the April 17th. But I feel very comfortable that we have enough time to complete the process and do a good job by the residents of the city.
Okay. I left off with IT. Did you have anybody want to make comments?
No, sir.
Anybody in the audience wish to make comments at this time? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And that's it. We'll move on to item 12.
I just had one comment, this is the demographer.
On the last item?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, my only one comment would be that it's unfortunate that the from districts idea is not catching on in the state of California. I do believe that from districts gives certain communities of interest and advantage in terms of electing their representatives. Particularly in this community, I think you have smaller communities of Caucasian Americans, African Americans, and Asian Americans. The from district scenario would give them voting power to elect a representative from those districts. As the demographer moves on, I hope that they can consider those particular groups and drawing the lines in the different districts along with class references. I know the California Voting Rights Act, which piggybacked off the National Voting Rights Act, is more so for different other groups in that instance. So just wanted the demographer to consider those three ethnic groups when they are drawing the lines in this area, because I do believe that African Americans are being disenfranchised and pushed to the side, not only in the state of California, but on the national sphere. So thank you.
Okay, item 12, business items, 13. We already took care of 12. City Council communication. Councilman Corona.
Thank you, Mayor. On last Saturday, what was an absolutely beautiful day here in the city of Paris. It first started with the ribbon cutting of our brand new, beautiful Veterans Memorial here in downtown Paris. I do want to thank Mayor Vargas and Mayor Pro Tem Rab for doing a great job on the Veterans Memorial Ad Hoc Committee. I want to thank all those that were involved in the entire project as well. But most importantly, I do want to give a special thank you to our veterans, those past, present, and future, who this memorial serves as a symbol of their sacrifice. With the ribbon cutting, then started the Veterans Parade, which was the first parade in our city in over 2 years. And I want to thank the staff for doing a great job, and for all those who attended, for the students to the car drivers and stuff like that. It was just a great day. And lastly, I want to thank all of our veterans for their service, and a safe and happy Veterans Day to Mayor Pro Tem Rab, for City Attorney Eric Dunn, and for also City PIO Stephen Hale. Just a big thank you for your service.
Thank you. Councilwoman Alva?
Thank you, Mayor. I too would also like to kick off by thanking our veterans and the loved ones of veterans. It was such an honor to be able to be a part of Saturday's celebration of the Veterans Memorial ribbon cutting, as well as the parade. So thank you all who were able to join us, and then thank you all who organized this event and made it possible for our community. Also, I had the opportunity to participate in the trunk or treat that happened, and it was very well attended, and it was a lot of fun for our families. So that was a really successful event. And again, thank you to all who coordinated and planned that. And then also, I just want to continue pushing and encouraging our folks to become involved in this process as we're now moving towards election system for districts. This is something pretty historic that's happening in the city of Paris, so we really want to hear as much input and feedback as possible. And another pretty historic thing that's happening here at our very own city of Paris is that council will soon enough have offices here. Believe it or not, the mayor nor council had a designated space where they could work from. So I'm so excited, and I look forward to be able to host office hours and meet with more constituents and make it more accessible for us to connect. And then also just encourage you all to continue getting COVID tested and trying to stay safe and navigate the current situation that we're going through. So that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes, I have to agree. Saturday was a beautiful day in the city of Paris. It was wonderful to see so many people line the streets to welcome back the council and all of the people who rode in the Veterans Parade. It's actually a real blessing to be able to honor the men and women who have participated in all branches of our military service and to thank them for everything they've done for us. But I was really surprised by the number of people that were actually out that day to welcome back that parade. And I know it's been a little dismal with the last year being able to cancel all of the parades. And I look forward to seeing the same number of people at our Christmas parade on December 11th, even more. And it's great to be back in that avenue again in the city of Paris. And it's a little sad tonight that when we're discussing going through to by districts that we had no participation from the public at our public hearing. So hopefully we're reaching out, marketing this next upcoming hearing so we can have actual participation from the public to see and hear how they feel about this transition in the city of Paris. And thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, just want to wish our veterans a happy Veterans Day and want to wish everyone a safe, happy, and prosperous Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, the Yak had a really great trunk or treat in the combination with the Depot After Dark at our Paris Depot. And Councilwoman Nava and Mayor Pro Tem and I were actual judges for the costume. It turned out to be a really good event. It was mixing both those organizations together instead of having separate venues. It really worked out well, very well attended, and very impressed with Greg. I can't recall his last name right now, who's really pushing all these Depot After Dark and Artisan Market on the weekends, and he's doing remarkable stuff over there, so that's great. I was very honored to be back with our seniors again. They celebrated their senior Dia de los Muertos celebration. They were just as happy to be back again, too, in the senior center, so it was great to be there with them. I attended the it was great to see the veterans that did make it out. And the Veterans Day Parade was, like Councilwoman Rogers indicated, it was a good, nice turnout for our first parade back since over a year and a few months. So looking forward to our Christmas parade. Again, as usual, thanks to staff from CS Community Services for all that they do for these events that we put on for our community, as well as Public Works, who's responsible for setting up, tearing down. These guys, they work very fast. You wouldn't even know the very next day that we had an event. So I thank them very much for all their hard work. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to City Manager Report, item 14.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to announce the upcoming events. The Take a Hike event at Cabian Park will take place this Saturday. It starts at 8 a.m. and check-in is at 7:30 a.m. The Youth Advisory Council Committee will be hosting a park cleanup at Skydive on Saturday, November 20th. Check-in starts at 7:30 and the cleanup begins at 8 a.m. You can obtain service hours, will also be available. For any questions, you can contact the Statler Youth Center. Next, I'd like to announce and congratulate our Community Services Department. Today, we received word from Kaiser Permanente that they were awarded a Grow Paris Youth Development Grant in the amount of $25,000 to continue our Grow Paris program. So congratulations to our Community Services Department. Next, I'd also like to congratulate our Economic Development Department. This past week, they were honored at the 9th Annual Inland Empire Economic Partnership Program. And the topic was turning red tape into red carpet. They were finalists in 4 categories and did receive honorable mention in the following 4 projects, which is the Veterans Memorial, the Skills Center, the Project Biotech, and the Small Business Assistance Program. So congratulations, Economic Development, for a great job. And finally, I'd like to introduce Ms. Karina Espinosa, who will provide a short presentation and a video on the Paris Street Decal program that they're getting ready to launch through the IT department.
Oh, wow. This is quite an interesting establishment. If only there was some way one could procure more knowledge of it. Huh? Doth I see a QR code? Let us scan upon it.
Paris City Hall campus, formerly known as the Paris Civic Center, was actually home to the first Paris Union High School campus until 1961, when the school was relocated to its present location. This beautiful mission-style city council building was originally home to the Recreation Department building, constructed in 1910.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and staff. I'm here to present the Paris City Compass project. So you may have seen some decals outside in the front of the council chambers. We're introducing this project. So pretty much the mission for this is so pedestrians strolling across the city, they can come across all of Paris's mediums. We also have a decal right here. As you can see, there's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and the City of Paris website. These decals are Illuma Tread, so they will have a guaranteed lifespan of 24 months, but will last several years. Residents and guests can quickly pull out their phone, their smartphone, and use their camera to scan these decals, and they can look up where they can visit, play, learn, and find the latest news in town. So these decals will be placed throughout City Hall campus and at first responders' locations. They will find out any resources about these locations, phone numbers, just by scanning them on the decals. We also partnered with the Paris Valley Historical Museum Association to highlight several historical locations in the city of Paris. It's all about teaching residents about where buildings used to be, what this building used to be, like the Nance building. It's now a shoe store, but there's a lot of history behind the Nance building. There's also the Bank of Paris. People will learn about the Bank of Paris and what it used to look like. We also have places to visit, so we'll be also placing decals outside of locations like Big League Dreams, the KBM Memorial Park, Southern California Fairgrounds, and people can just learn about any events coming up, any resources, anything that's going on at that location. And we also plan on putting several decals throughout all of the city parks. These decals will be helpful to teach residents about how big the parks are, what sports go on at those locations, etc. And we'll also be covering pocket parks and the Paris Valley Trail. So just to show you an example, here's the council chambers webpage. So when you scan the QR code that's outside of the council chambers, you'll get this page and you can see what the council chambers looks like outside, inside, and what it used to look like. And we also have a brief bio of the location and the video that you guys saw at the beginning of the presentation. And we also have links of the meetings and agendas that happen at this location and the city website link to go ahead and ease residents to go to the homepage of the City of Paris website. And this project will be conducted in several phases depending on community engagement. So the first phase will be on City Hall campus and first responder locations. Second phase would be historical locations and places to visit. And the third phase would be parks. And that concludes my presentation. If there's any questions?
Thank you, Karina. Excuse me, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. And that reminds me, I'm always giving kudos to CS and Public Works, and I always fail to mention the work that this IT department is for the city of Paris is remarkably outstanding, and I get compliments from community members and business associates on how well our website and everything that we do with our news and things of what you just showed us right now is very highly noted from the community, from the public, and from our business partners. So thank you to our IT department under the leadership of Arturo Cervantes. You guys are doing an outstanding job. Thank you. Okay, that leads us to item 15. Unfortunately, it's time to adjourn, but tonight we will be closing in memory of Tomas Gonzalez, the father-in-law of our IT supervisor, Mr. Paul Lopez, who passed away on October 24th. So our thoughts and prayers are with you, Paul, and your wife and family, and your in-laws' families as well. Good night, everyone. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.